Hello and welcome back. If you are trying to get pregnant and you're over 40, this video is for you. So there are some things that you need to remember when you're trying to get pregnant over 40, but the first thing is that it is completely possible, and not just like, oh, it's possible. It happens all the time. The difference being that you have to understand what's going on with your body. You have to be really good at interpreting the cues that your body is trying to tell you. And you have to be a little bit more diligent and focused than, say, someone who is struggling with their fertility when they're in their early 30s. You might not even be struggling with your fertility, but you know that you're 40 plus and you want to have a baby. So these are the things that you're going to want to focus on and understand if this is you. So the first thing that I want to say is, in both my business and my personal life, I know many women that have gotten pregnant, healthy pregnancies, delivered healthy babies over 40. Now, there is this notion that if you're having a baby over 40, oh my God, it's going to have genetic issues and you're being so irresponsible and it's dangerous. I need you to divorce yourself from that. I will give you a few examples. One of my clients is 42 and she had a baby completely naturally in all realms. She had a natural birth, she got pregnant and conceived naturally, and she had a beautiful pregnancy. One of my best friends, who was also a client, had her baby at 40. She struggled for a year, and her fertility was better after we worked together at 40 than it was previous to us working together. So this notion that fertility cannot be improved as you age is also a lie. So you have to remember that there are success stories out there. Find them. If you're finding yourself really deep in the doldrums about maybe your age, or maybe you waited too long, or whatever's in your head, find stories of hope that help you feel better about your situation. Whether that is looking online, whether that is finding people on social media, whether it's on Reddit, whether it's someone who knows someone, ask if you can reach out to that person, because that will show you that it's completely possible, because mindset is such a huge part of this process, especially the older you get. Emotional inflammation is real. I say it in my life, I say it to people all the time. If you are dealing with a lot of stress based on the fact that you're like, oh my God, I'm 40, I'm 41, I want to have a baby, like all of that stress is bad for you. And it's going to be bad for your eggs. It's going to be bad for your body. And that is bad ultimately for your chances of getting pregnant over 40. You have to be so much more mindful about your blood sugar, your gut health, your inflammation, your stress levels as you get older. And again, I think that one of the things that people forget about people that are trying to get pregnant in their 40s is that your body has lived a life. And in order to understand where you're at, you have to go back and look at what's happened. I just had a client, we just got off a call, and she was saying, she had H. pylori, and she also had COVID really bad. And so it's like, those aren't nothing. Those aren't inconsequential to this process. If you had something like H. pylori, that means your gut has been disrupted very badly. So we have to do the work of remedying that before we go into conception, especially over 40. If you've had COVID leaves inflammation. I had a really bad bout of COVID and I was inflamed for 6 months. I had a lot of work to do. And so again, it's not just, well, I'm just going to go into trying. It's about stopping, calming down, and looking at the landscape of what this means for you. And for some people, it means I got to work on my gut. For other people, it's like I got to work on my inflammation. For other people, it's like I've had PCOS and I need to fix that and figure that out. And then you go into trying. Because if you are trying to overcome and just get pregnant despite all of these things, you will face a lot more challenges than if you stop, take a step back, survey the landscape, and understand where the work needs to come from before the work of getting pregnant even starts. One thing I'll say to my wannabe mamas over 40 is that diet matters so much. If you drink a lot, you have to stop. You do. You have to stop while you're trying. Your doctor's office may not say that, but the older you are, the more that is going to affect your body. You have less eggs. Now, that doesn't mean that you have less chances of getting pregnant, but you have less eggs. And we have to make sure that we are not doing things that is going to cause inflammation, blood sugar issues, gut disruption, all of which alcohol does. Now, if you're on vacation and you're living your life, have at her. But day to day, week over week, we are not consuming a lot of alcoholic beverages. That's just flat out. I know it doesn't sound fun, but you want to have a baby, that's what you have to do. Another thing is understanding how you eat and how that is impacting in your body. If you eat food and you eat a meal and you are super tired an hour after eating it, how you ate that meal was incorrect. If you eat food and you are tired an hour after you ate that meal, there might not have been enough on that plate to fund your energy just to live and survive and thrive. So there will definitely not be enough energy for your reproduction and your reproductive health. If you are eating foods that are heavily processed and like you love fast food and it's your favorite and you're not giving it up, I have some bad news for you. That is going to affect your fertility baseline. It simply is. And we have to remember that our bodies have lived a life. If you are over 40 or 40 plus, you have lived 40 years in this body. You have had those eggs for 40 years in your body. You have to look back and see, like, was I eating a lot of processed foods? Was I sick a lot in my 20s? Was I drinking a lot? And that will sort of guide where you put the work. If you are someone that took a lot of medications, you drank a lot in your 20s and 30s, maybe, and not maybe, yes, you should be thinking about what's going on with your liver. If you are someone that has never had really good digestion, you've kind of always gone through like constipation, or maybe it's diarrhea, or maybe it's just like gurgly belly all the time. You need to understand that that work of repairing your gut and making sure it functions really well is done. Because if you are just trying to just step over that, like it's some sort of pylon, I have news for you. It's actually a brick wall. And so understanding that your diet matters and influences all of these things, but making sure that you go back and you look at what has happened to inform what needs to happen before you start trying. Because I see this all the time. People will say, well, I have bad periods and I have this and I have that, but the clinic told me that I should just keep trying. I should just keep trying. And it's like, well, no, let's remedy those things. Let's bring balance and homeostasis and a safe feeling to the body. And then we try and put a baby into it. Speaking of clinics, you are going to have a thick skin. If you are going to any fertility clinic, some are better than others, I will acknowledge that. But if you are going to any fertility clinic, you need to develop a thick skin. They will absolutely say geriatric pregnancy to you. And that really hits you in the depths. It's like a knife to the gut. It's like, geriatric, I'm only 37 or I'm only 40. Geriatric in the regular world, you are not. But in a fertility clinic space, you absolutely are. And so again, you have to develop a thick skin when it comes to that space, because they are going to potentially use a lot of fear. They might use language like, you're old, you waited too long. And they use that and they do that, one, to set an expectation. I can completely understand that. But also, when you are scared, you are more likely to make knee-jerk decisions. Okay, I'll do donor eggs. Okay, I'll do IVF. Okay, I'll do IUI. You're writing the check before they even finish the sentence because you feel fear. But if you arm yourself with knowledge, confidence, and just like, it's gonna be okay, when you go into that space, you have a more clear head, a more level head. One of the things I like to support my clients on is just the knowledge and the tools, and again, getting their body baby friendly so that when they go into these spaces, they are armed with the right questions. And also when the testing is done, it's like they have already done the work to make sure their AMH is where it needs to be, make sure their FSH is where it needs to be. But to that end, AMH and FSH, those are numbers that pertain to doing things like IVF and IUI. Now, if you have low ovarian function, something like PRP, which is far more affordable than IVF or IUI, can help to wake up the ovaries. And if you do that in conjunction with understanding gut health, blood sugar, liver health, inflammation, that's when something like PRP works exceptionally well. But you want to make sure that you have done the prep work before you go into that space, because if you haven't, they are going to use that to get you to buy something that you might not need. And I say this not as disparaging fertility clinics. They are good at what they're good at, but they're not good at everything. They are not the be all end all. You are not going to get nutrition advice in a fertility clinic. You are not going to get lifestyle advice in a fertility clinic. Instead, you are going to get advice on doing fertility treatments, because that is what they do. Now, another thing is you want to build a safe circle of people around you. You need to have places to share, whether that's a therapist, your partner, trusted friends, that you're sharing this journey. We're trying, we're doing this, because that can also be someone that can do it with you. You're out at a party and this one friend knows that you're not drinking because you're trying. That person might not want to drink either. They might join you in the not drinking as a support to you, but it also benefits them. Drinking is bad for us all. Well, it's fun, but it's bad for us all. And so finding a really safe circle where you can speak openly, where they're not going to be like, oh my God, you're old, you're trying. Why are you guys trying? You don't want any of that. And so be mindful of who you share your information with so that it's met with positivity, with support, because that's what you're going to need. Also, it helps you to sort of select the village that is going to be there when you're pregnant, when you're postpartum. All of that stuff you can sort of figure out now by sharing with the right people and creating this safe community, because regardless of what happens, you want to be able to have somewhere where you can talk about it and you can be seen, you can be heard, you can be understood, and you can be cared for in that emotional way. And so be mindful of your circle and also develop a thick skin, because you're probably going to need it. Now, I'm one of those people that doesn't think that age is the only metric, but it is a metric. I would be sitting here lying to you if I said age didn't matter at all. It does have something to do with everything that's happening, but we also have to remember age and its role. So when we're talking about things like AMH and FSH, those are numbers that help a fertility clinic determine whether you are going to be a good candidate for something like IVF or IUI. When those numbers indicate some things, it can say that maybe you have low ovarian reserve and you wouldn't be a good candidate for something like egg freezing, because the goal is to get a lot. So that, some make it to the retrieval. They won't all survive till the other stage. It's kind of like you lose as you go through the stages. And so that is why understanding age and AMH and FSH is very important in that space. But also understanding that if you are just trying at home, one good egg. And so when I hear people say I have low ovarian reserve and they're like, well, I can't get pregnant, it's like low doesn't mean no. Low ovarian reserve doesn't mean no ovarian reserve. And something like PRP can wake up some of those follicles. Also, you have to think about then, if I have low ovarian reserve, let me then do the work to make those eggs as healthy and as high quality as I can. AMH and FSH don't say anything about your egg quality. You can have a lot of eggs, but if they're all piss poor, then what's the point? And so you have to be thinking about, what do these things mean and what do they mean for me? So I hear and I see a lot of women with low ovarian reserve. Your work is to do the work on improving your egg quality. Now, if you are someone that's told you have low ovarian reserve, you shouldn't be a good candidate for something like IVF or IUI because of what those drug protocols can do to your egg quality. And some clinics will clock that, some won't. I mean, they're not created equal. And I'll say that. I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on them. I'm not. But you also, again, want to make sure that what you are doing is going to be good for your body frame. Now, if you decide to do something like IUI or IVF, making sure that your body is in a really good space, your base level of reproduction is really high, because that means it will be able to withstand some of the heavy protocols of drugs and some of the stress associated with just doing all of that, financial stress, emotional stress, all of it. So understanding age and its role is important. You have less eggs, but it's not like it's a cliff. We have been told after 35, it drops off a cliff. That is simply untrue. Again, trying at home, one good egg. And so we also need to be thinking about our partner. So often, women are treated as though it's the only thing that matters. It's your eggs, it's your body, you're too old. He can have a baby whenever. Yes, he can, but it might be genetically abnormal, because that's where the genetic issues come from his sperm fragmentation. If the DNA is fragmented in your spouse, you could have the most perfect egg, there might still be issues. And so all of these things, if your partner is over 40, he needs to be doing things too. This isn't just you getting poked and prodded and thinking about all these things and he's sitting back being like, well, men can get someone pregnant anytime. No, he also needs to be doing this work, understanding his age, understanding his sperm concentration, morphology, motility, but most importantly, and I will say it in every single video that you see me do, fragmentation. Because if the DNA is fragmented in his sperm, that is 50% of wonky DNA going into that egg. And if the DNA can confirm gender, it can also confirm genetic issues or genetic stability. And so age matters to both parties in this discussion. So if your partner is sort of just kicking back, putting his arms up, and he's like, I'm good. No. Change the conversation. Age matters to both parties, and what you do to improve your egg quality will be the same thing you do to improve sperm quality. So you might as well do it together. Parenthood is a partnered event. Might as well start now. You also want to be very mindful to get the right help. Now, if you are like, I'm doing IVF, I'm doing it. Okay. That help you would find that help and that support in a fertility clinic. If you are trying to get pregnant naturally at home, then you would see someone like myself. You would see a fertility diet coach or a fertility coach or someone that is going to help you understand the lifestyle metrics, the diet metrics, because you're not going to get that in a fertility space. My approach for anybody is first decide the path that you want to take. Some people are like, I don't want to do IVF. I don't want to do IUI. Well, then maybe you go to the clinic to get your numbers run just to get a picture of what's going on. But there's actually better diagnostics, in my opinion. If you know that you want to try at home, I wouldn't necessarily go get my AMH and FSH tested. Instead, what I would do is I would get a gut test, a stool sample. I would do a HTMA test, so hair and mineral test. I would do a Dutch test to see what's going on with my hormones, because that will give you a full spectrum picture of how your gut is digesting, what's going on with your hormone function, what's going on with the mineral balance in your body and your circulation. All of that can be gleaned by those types of diagnostics. Whereas AMH and FSH are just like, you have a lot of eggs, you don't have a lot of eggs kind of thing. That being said, if you combine the two efforts, lifestyle, nutrition support, also with some clinical support, that can be sort of like the happy place where everything kind of just like springs from, because you're getting the support to make your body baby friendly, but you're also getting the science and the diagnostic and the tools to help you actually get the baby in there and get the baby to stick. Fertility over 40 is not some complicated rubric as it's been shown or told to be. Instead, it's just about understanding what your body has been through and understanding how to bring balance from that place. It's also about understanding what goals you have, how you want to approach this, and then figuring out the right path forward. But regardless of what you do, you need to make sure that your body is in a place to get pregnant, stay pregnant, have a good postpartum, and be resilient throughout the whole process. Because you're older, your body's just been through more, it's been around longer. That doesn't mean it can't get pregnant and sustain a beautiful, healthy pregnancy and baby. It just means that we need to be thinking of some other things and potentially be a little bit more focused on it than, say, someone who is like maybe a decade younger. But if you want a baby, you can have a baby. We just have to do the work. And I would love to help you do it.